Hi, everybody. It's Brett Bell here from Grassroots Online for episode 24, 6 months worth of our weekly podcast, which we have entitled RootsCast. With me, as always, is the lovely, the talented, the amazing Mark Hardwick.
Wow.
Feeling pretty generous today.
Yeah, it is a lovely day. It is lovely.
It is a lovely day. I think that's what it is.
It's a lovely day, so I'll take that.
Maybe it's the vitamin D, I don't know, but maybe it's all the sunshine, who knows, but it'd be good if I actually had the phone. There we go. So that'll make things a little bit easier. So we are going to jump right into our topics of conversation. The first one is dealing with the Ontario provincial election. As most people know who watch this show on a regular basis, we're pretty much since the election started, we've been dealing with some sort of topic regarding the provincial election and sort of the social media impact on that election, because we both live in Ontario. But I think that this, as with all the other topics, I think that this actually applies to any kind of social or digital campaign that you'd be running in any jurisdiction. So the Agenda, which is a public affairs program, actually posted a interesting analysis, and I'm going to put it up here for the viewers at home, and as always, we'll link to it. But it's it's actually an article on Google searches, and what they did was they actually went through and they took a look at what were the trends for each of the party leaders, and you can see what they were saying was with a 7-day trend and even a 30-day trend that once Ontario PC leader Tim Hudak announced his policy platforms, etc. Once the election got going, you can see there in the bottom there the 30-day trend. His searches just went absolutely through the roof, with the other parties lagging very far behind. So it's an interesting analysis, and I just kind of wanted to lay it out for Mark and I to discuss, because we see typically it's a lot of sort of Twitter mentions and sentiment on Twitter and things like that. That's a fairly typical analysis, but I haven't seen a Google trend analysis where they're looking at actually how many people are searching out these things. I just want to get your thoughts on it, Mark, and see what your take is on what the data shows when you see these kind of, somebody like Tim Hudak, he had a huge spike in searches. I just want to get what you think about that.
I think it's pretty interesting, as you said, to see this, because we don't see this very, and I've never seen this either. I think it's pretty interesting to see where the searches are, and that in fact once you make a major policy announcement or a major plank in your platform, that the searches actually go up, and you can see that that's happened. And you can see that it happened with Andrea Horwath. She got a bit of a spike there too when she made her announcement. But Tim Hudak seems to be has gone up and then a little bit down, and then now is going back up, where the Liberals, Kathleen Wynne, is they've gone up a little bit and then they've just kind of flatlined, and they're not really going anywhere. So I mean, it doesn't really tell us what they're searching for specifically, but it is interesting to see that they're that people are searching, for those names, right? It'd be interesting to see if they're tying in like Hudak and Ontario PC Party, or Hudak and jobs, or what they're kind of tying into those. If there's anything around those searches, or if it's just flat Hudak that they're searching. Yeah. It'd also be interesting to see what type of search results are coming up for different people. Like, so, for example, I'll let you talk a little bit more about preparation that the parties may have had for these searches coming up. But it may be interesting to see actually what shows up in different regions for Hudak, and where different articles may be showing up, and what Google's showing different people across the internet and across Ontario about what they're specifically searching for. So I know we started talking about party preparation and stuff like that, and how the parties should be ready for this type of thing. And I know that you had started off on that when we were offline. So let's continue that conversation on how the parties should prepare for not only like targeted advertising, but for this type of searching.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess to just Mark and I were talking about this before we started. It's interesting because I don't know if or I'd be surprised. Well, not be surprised. The party, any of the digital teams in the parties need to all three parties or anybody who's on a digital team needs to take this under consideration in terms of these Google searches, because I think we tend to think of Google ads as something that you're going to put out regardless of what happens, right? So you're going to say, okay, well, here are the search terms that people are going to look for and all that kind of thing, and like, you know, plan out way ahead of time. And sure, lots of people do Google search ads and things like that. But it's interesting to have a plan, and I would suggest that they need to have a plan for when these kind of, like, say for example, on a specific time when you have an event like we saw here with this analysis, where the platform was released and searches went up significantly, that there's a plan in place to actually capitalize on that search activity. So the one thing I think that what Mark and I were talking about before this started was, I guess what I'm trying to sort of articulate is that I think that when people are thinking about paid advertising and stuff like that, I don't think that they necessarily, or I don't see it that often where they're actually planning for this kind of this boost, right? And this boost in search engines, because we really ultimately, I think that people are far more likely, in my view, an average voter is far more likely to go into Google and write out their own search term, and whatever that may be, as Mark pointed out, whatever that might be, you know, so it could be, in this case, Tim Hudak million jobs or whatever, Tim Hudak plan, whatever, Tim Hudak cuts. I mean, it's possible, but those kind of understanding that conversation or that thought process is taking place, I think, is really important, because I believe that's far more likely the avenue that people are going to take to get to your platform than going to your .com or your Facebook advertisement or whatever. I think a Google search engine should be a much larger part of your strategy in terms of onboarding people to your content, especially when you have something that's getting a lot of media attention. I think that's kind of my take on it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, and generally, you can't. I mean, you can say that there's a lot of people on Facebook, and you know, there's people on Twitter to get your message out. But you know, if you really want to get your message out to everybody, they're going to be going to Google, and only really unless you've got a you know, a piece of lit, or you know, you've seen a commercial with a directing you to a website, chances are, you're right, they're gonna be Googling it, and they're gonna be searching for Tim Hudak, or they're going to be searching for the specific party. They're not going to actually know to go to Ontario Liberal, because generally most voters don't really give a crap until, you know, around this point in time. They want to get the goods, and they're busy with their life. They want to find out what they're interested in, and when there's a major announcement made and they see it on the media, that's when they go and they do their Google search. They don't. The media doesn't go, yeah, go to www.blah-blah-blah.com party website. They say, you know, Ontario PC, they type it in, they go. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that's a major part of a campaign strategy, to make sure that you're using Google to your advantage.
Yeah, and you can anticipate some of it, but I think sometimes, you know, and we've seen this is proof positive, right? So we've seen this kind of analysis where there is clearly a spike in Google, like there is a cause and effect, right? So something is announced, and then there's a large, especially something that's fairly, it's controversial, people are talking about it. There will be on that other side, there will be additional Google search term hits, right? Like people will be searching for this, so it's important to keep track of what people are searching for in real time, and make sure you're adjusting your strategy accordingly, and make sure that you're keeping up with what people are searching for, because you can predict it somewhat, but you can't always predict it. It depends on what the conversation has turned into, right? And I think it's important that you have to monitor it in real time and then adjust it accordingly.
Yep, definitely.
Yep. All right.
And I'd be interested to know if the digital leads on these campaigns have actually seen this, and are they taking into account these numbers? That's what I'd like to know.
Excellent question. So who knows? Maybe they are. I don't know. I mean, it's happening one way or another. Whether they're taking advantage of it or not, it's happening. So.
Well, hopefully we'll get some insight into that when the election's over.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll once the dust settles, we can sort of dig into that kind of stuff. So we're going to move on to topic number 2, which is a really interesting, an interesting topic here. The town of Peoria in the United States is in the headlines because the mayor, I guess the mayor sort of, a Twitter parody account was opened that sort of acted like it was the mayor of the city, and what ended up happening was the it actually started a police raid. So there's a whole bunch of articles here that have come out because it's huge. It's turned into this. It's in Illinois, and basically what ended up happening is there was this fake Twitter account, and they actually ended up raiding a home once the mayor, Jim Ardis, filed a criminal complaint. So it went from, as they say on the internet, that escalated quickly. So it turned into a huge issue there. So I want to get your thoughts on it because I've never seen this before, where they actually turn, the police are involved in a parody account that only had 50 followers. So I want to get your thoughts on it because to me it was just an amazing. Like, what an overreaction. So I just want to get your thoughts on it, Mark, and we can sort of chat about it because I thought it was an interesting story.
So if I'm looking at this correctly, Peoria has about 120,000 people.
Yeah.
120,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really don't think that, and I got to mention this because we've talked about this a little bit before. I think politicians really need to get off this thing that these Twitter parody accounts are going to destroy their lives. They're gonna ruin their reputation. They're not gonna get elected again. I mean, let's be honest. Twitter is a good place for conversation and a good place to get your policy out there, to have conversations with voters and do that. But let's be honest. An account with 50 followers is not going to hurt your personal life, your political endeavors, or not get you reelected. It's just silly that they think that off like right off the hop. It's silly.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think it's silly that they would put the time and the resources. How much money did it cost these guys? And I know we're a little bit off social media, but I'll make it quick. How much money did it cost these guys to get the police, the district attorneys, the administrators, and everything it takes to put together these search warrants to go to this guy's house,
totally.
Okay, to bust somebody else for possession of pot, whatever. Okay, for 50 followers. I don't know numbers, but I'm saying probably in the tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah. Let's take that money and spend it on a social media plan for this mayor, because clearly he thinks that he needs it to beat on 50 followers.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, well, and that's a great point. I think the point that I want to make on this is that, if he was trying to ensure that nobody sort of paid attention to this parody account, he failed completely.
Oh yeah.
Because now it's a national, actually not a national story, it's an international story. We're talking about it. This is in Illinois. We're not from Illinois, and we're talking about it. And this is clearly a case of using a sledgehammer to swat a fly. Police presence aside, that's a whole other issue that I'm really uncomfortable with in terms of executing a raid for somebody who's running a parody account. But I think ultimately the way that I look at it is very similar to how you look at it, which is, look, guys, 50 followers, it's going to have a pretty small impact. How I would have handled it, if I was him or advising him, is what I would have done is there are mechanisms in place to deal with this kind of stuff. So it's very clear I think we've talked about this before, it's very clear in the Twitter terms of service that you have to identify that it's a parody account. So you can't, they don't allow fakes, like they don't allow impersonations. So there is actually a form that the mayor could have filled out that actually says this person is impersonating my likeness, and you need to remove it. And they would have contacted him and said, look, you either fix it or we're going to suspend you, right? So that could have been dealt with quietly. He could have just basically said, this guy's an idiot. But man, this is like the nuclear option for and I agree with you completely. In this world, satire and parody have been around for thousands, as long as politics has been around. And I don't understand now why people have such a thin skin when it comes to Twitter or when it comes to online stuff. People get really upset about this stuff. And like, again, failure at an epic level. If you're trying to make this go away, man, now we've got a civil rights suit. We've got national media attention. Like, this has just turned into a complete debacle. And man, what a lesson in what not to do as far as I'm concerned. Just unbelievable.
You know what they say about these accounts too. Like, I mean, you've had multiple like kind of troll accounts that kind of go after me or well, go after me. I don't know why, but whatever. Or politics. You know, what you do. You ignore them. They go away because it's not fun anymore for them. The guy's got to.
Don't feed the trolls, right?
What he's saying. What's that?
Don't feed the trolls, right? Like that's the main rule.
I mean, it's just stupidity. And now this guy's, as you said, has got international media attention. I mean, it makes me think that. So this is a pretty small town, right? Bigger than my city. But maybe
it's not a major. It's not a major medium.
Maybe it was personal for him. Maybe Bobby Joe or whatever the guy's name was. Maybe it's personal for him. Maybe he just said, "You know what, buddy? I'm the mayor. I'm coming to get you, brother."
It's possible. I mean, again, this is definitely.
Why would you make that big of a deal of this? He must be just shaking his head, going, "Oh my God, what did I do?"
But you know what? And you know what? Now it's a whole different repercussions. But like I said, I think that the lesson I'd like to convey to folks who are watching this is again there are ways to two things. One is when it's so small, 50 followers, ignore it, right? But number two, because I think Mark's dead on. But number two is if you can't ignore it or you don't feel you need to ignore it, there are Twitter's very, very clear on what you're supposed to do when you have a situation like this where. Like impersonation is no joke, right? Like if actually somebody has set up an account and they're actually trying to basically spoof you, like in terms of actually making not spoof from a satirical point of view, but they're actually trying to make it that they are you. That's a problem, and that needs to be dealt with very, very quickly. And Twitter is pretty serious about that in those kind of cases. So I don't know why they wouldn't work with Twitter or whatever the case may be, try to get the account suspended. But I mean, maybe it is possible because he did change, as from reading the stories, he did change the account from saying that he was the mayor to saying that he wasn't the mayor. Like he actually indicated that he was a satirical account. But either way, I don't know how this was a good fail all the way through. Like this is just a worst way to handle it. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Well, there you go. So look at agreement all around. So there you go. So we'll end it there. Thanks very much for watching this week. Two great topics yet again for us to discuss. We hope you enjoyed it, and make sure you stick around next week for episode 25. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, folks. We'll see you next week.